Hi, I'm Laura Ingle, and you're in the strategy room. All right, Ted Cruz is barnstorming Indiana ahead of a critical contest in the Hoosier state, as polls show GOP rival Donald Trump ahead by double digits. Trump's momentum is sparking unease among the unbound delegates. Ted Cruz fought so hard to win in states like North Dakota, and Cruz is now under pressure to secure their support by winning again, starting in Indiana. Joining me now with analysis are Democratic strategist Douglas Smith and Republican strategist Charmaine Yoest. Welcome to you both.
Hi, thanks for having us.
All right, Charmaine, I'm going to start with you. Tell me about these unbound delegates and how this could play out at the convention. Obviously a very interesting time right now.
Well, you know, there's so much going on behind the scenes in terms of courting these people and trying to pull up those absolutely important numbers of 1237, of getting there. But what we're hearing from the Trump camp is that they're projecting that they're actually going to roll into the convention with 1,400, and that's because of this outreach to unbound delegates. So really all eyes have to be on Indiana tomorrow, because whether or not the unbound delegates come into play depends on how well Ted Cruz does tomorrow. And we're actually seeing competing polls. We had some polls come out over the weekend that showed that Ted Cruz is actually doing really well in Indiana. But as you said, the more predominant polls are showing Trump pulling away. And I think what that actually reflects is the effective momentum in this sense of him moving towards closing and finishing out the campaign.
And it has been all about momentum. Douglas, do you think these unbound delegates could switch from Cruz to Trump? Could it happen?
Yeah, I think absolutely. I think they've waited so long, and now the inevitability of Trump all of a sudden is upon them. Yeah, I was watching a bunch of the coverage this weekend, and there was a great little segment with Senator Cruz speaking to a crowd, and a child started heckling him, and Senator Cruz said, that child should be spanked. Oh. And my 9-year-old daughter turned to me and said, "Daddy, I actually think it's the senator who's getting spanked right now." So I think that kind of speaks to where he's at.
Okay. Well, Charmaine, let's talk about Indiana. You know, we've been hearing this. This is going to be Cruz's last stand. Is that the right way to put this at this point?
Well, you know, a lot of people have been saying it's all about Indiana unless it happens to be about California. So, you know, that's the way this election has been going, you know, seeing that this is the last stand and then the next one is the last stand. But really it is kind of coming to a head here with this particular vote in terms of the fact of the matter is, as we all know, Cruz does not have the route to 1237. He has to stop Trump, and that's where that happens is tomorrow in Indiana. I will tell you, one of the things that I find most interesting was one brief reporting on Google traffic last week. When Ted Cruz announced Carly Fiorina as his running mate, they had a brief spike in Google searches for Carly Fiorina, and yet even that spike just barely hit the peak of Donald Trump searches. So this is this tidal wave that the Never Trump and the Cruz campaign are fighting against, is this really unrelenting interest in what Trump and the Trump campaign is doing.
Right. And, you know, Douglas, I wanted to ask you about the hashtag Never Trump movement. Is it dying out? Are Republicans coalescing around Trump at this point? And what does this mean for the Democrats?
You know, I think the big thing where they stumbled was always about no, 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 but they never offered a yes around something. And as sort of jumbled as this election cycle has proven, voters do want something to vote for. They don't just want to vote against something. And I think that's where they have really stumbled. You know, as it relates to the Democrats, I mean, quite honestly, as a Democrat, I mean, the more confusion going into Cleveland, the better for us. But at the same time, you know, the sooner it can be a head-to-head matchup against Senator Clinton and against Donald Trump, you know, the better the Democrats see it, because the differences are just so great that once they can get on the battlefield and really start to address these issues, that's where Hillary Clinton supporters really think they're going to start to pull away. All
right, Douglas, Charmaine, thank you both so much for being here. And for complete coverage on the 2016 election, you want to go to foxnews.com. I'm Laura Ingle. Thanks for watching.